Good morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You are watching World DNA with me, Raisha Saigal.
And I'm Heem Kaur Surayan. On the show today, a tragic incident in India. At least 6 people lost their lives. Several others injured after a stampede broke out near the famous Tirupati temple in the state of Andhra Pradesh. We'll get you all the latest on this on the show today.
Also on World DNA, outgoing US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has advised the world not to waste a lot of time on what Trump is saying regarding Greenland, asserting that Trump's bid to take over Greenland is not a good idea. A lot more lined up on the show, but first a quick check on the headlines.
Israeli military says 3 IDF soldiers killed during fighting in northern Gaza. At least 14 killed.
Israel says body of one hostage taken by Hamas militants recovered from a tunnel in southern Gaza. IDF also claims to locate findings linked to hostage's son.
At least 5 people killed in wildfires raging around LA, with more deaths feared. Over 1,000 buildings have burned.
US President-elect Donald Trump and his wife pay tribute to Jimmy Carter as the late former president lies in state at the US Capitol ahead of a national funeral.
At least 6 people killed, dozens sustained injuries in Indian state of Andhra Pradesh after stampede breaks out near the famous Tirupati temple. Incident occurred during the distribution of entry tokens to devotees.
Cold wave conditions continue in northern India, including capital Delhi. Weather agency issues dense fog warning for next 2 days.
Eighteen-year-old Lucas Bergwall scores a controversial late winner to give the Spurs a 1-0 advantage over Liverpool in the semi-final of the EFL Cup. On-field will host the second leg on the 6th of February. At least 5 people have been killed in the fast-growing wildfires in LA.
More than 1,400 firefighting personnel have been deployed to combat the blazes. Also, National Guard's troops have been dispatched to provide help.
They are battling multiple out-of-control blazes across the metropolitan area from the Pacific coast to Pasadena.
Thousands of people have been ordered to evacuate as fires rampage through homes in some of California's most affluent neighborhoods.
You want to go to Bethel? Okay.
Never. I've lived in this area for over 20 years. And we've seen fires in the mountains and the hills and that, but never anything like this.
Actually, it was out in the backyard hosing things down because the embers were really going crazy. And then finally, the sky was just bright orange. And I go, we got to go now.
Overwhelmed by the scale and speed of the unfolding disaster, the LA Fire Department has put out a plea for off-duty and out-of-state firefighters to help. The biggest blaze has consumed more than 11,000 acres in the Pacific Palisades, a wealthy neighborhood in West Los Angeles. With an estimated 1,000 structures destroyed and the flames still growing, it's far more destructive than the Seri fire in 2008 that destroyed just over 600 structures.
Another fire in Eaton Canyon in the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains north of Los Angeles has spread to more than 10,000 acres. Los Angeles Department of Water and Power Chief Executive pleaded with the people to save water after hydrants in a few areas, including Pacific Palisades, ran dry.
President-elect Donald Trump took to his social media platform to claim that the lack of water was the result of the state's environmental policies. However, water officials cleared that there is plenty of water in Southern California reservoirs to fight the fires. The real difficulty is the logistics of getting enough of it to Pacific Palisades and at the rate the firefighters need to control these blazes.
U.S. President Joe Biden, who was in Los Angeles with California Governor Gavin Newsom, was briefed on what he called an astounding situation. Biden told the reporters that his administration is doing anything and everything to contain these fires.
Anything that needs to walk and takes to contain these fires and help reconstruct, make sure that back to normal. It's going to be another long way. It's going to take time.
California's wildfire season typically begins in June or July and runs through October, but January wildfires are not unprecedented. According to CAL FIRE, there was 1 in 2022 and 10 in 2021.
And well, for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report. Take a look.
Apocalyptic scenes in California as multiple wildfires are devastating the Los Angeles area. More than 100,000 people have been displaced so far, and neighborhoods are being destroyed as we speak. The Palisades fire alone has burned nearly 3,000 acres with 0% containment, making this the worst wildfire in Los Angeles history. Governor Gavin Newsom has declared a state of emergency, and federal aid has been secured to assist firefighters, but the challenges remain, not only from extreme winds but water shortage, with some hydrants running dry. A call has been put out to neighboring states for more firefighters, as there simply just aren't enough to fight these fires. Evacuation orders are in place, but for many, leaving is easier said than done. As emergency crews are working tirelessly around the clock, the crisis ultimately highlights the stark reality of how quickly life can change. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
The 47th President of the United States of America has ambitious plans for the country. Even before assuming office, Trump has stated his plans to make America great again, even if it means taking control of other territories.
In a headline-grabbing press conference on Tuesday, Trump threatened military action to secure the Panama Canal, and Greenland vowed to bring Canada to heel using economic forces and promised to rename the Gulf of Mexico as Gulf of America. Here's more.
Days ahead of his presidential inauguration, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is outlining his ambitious and expansive plans and agenda for America. At a press conference at his Mar-a-Lago residence in Florida, Trump doubled down on his recent suggestion that Canada should become the 51st state of the U.S., not even refusing to rule out the use of economic force to acquire Canada.
You get rid of that artificially drawn line, and you take a look at what that looks like, and it would also be much better for national security. Don't forget, we basically protect Canada.
In a post on Truth Social, Trump even shared a map of the United States showing the whole Canada as part of the country. While Justin Trudeau was quick to reject the idea, the Canadian government is preparing for the possibility of Trump following through on his threatened 25% tariff on Canadian imports. On the strategic Panama Canal that the United States handed over to the Central American country 25 years ago, Trump said the waterway was vital to our country, asserting he will not rule out the use of military force to seize control of the Panama Canal and Danish territory, Greenland. Trump alleged that Chinese soldiers are illegally operating the Panama Canal and accused Panama of abusing their gift from the United States. Panama has repeatedly denied Trump's allegations that China has been given a role in running the canal or is given preferential rates to use it.
I reiterate what President Jose Raul Mulino has already stated. The sovereignty of our canal is non-negotiable as it is part of our history of struggle and a permanent achievement.
While Trump's fixation on the Panama Canal is relatively new, his interest in Greenland is not. He has already raised the idea of buying the island during his first term, drawing a sharp refusal from local authorities. Trump's son, Donald Jr., reached Denmark on a private trip on Tuesday. Arriving on his father's Trump Force One private jet, Trump Jr. declared that he was excited to be in Greenland. Denmark's Prime Minister said only people of Greenland can determine and define Greenland's future.
Greenland is not for sale. The United States is our absolute closest ally, and we want to work closely with them in all defense and security questions. It is also regarding the North Atlantic, where tensions are rising. We have a clear interest in that it is the United States that plays a large role in the area, and not, for example, Russia or other countries. But Greenland is for the Greenlandic people.
Greenland is an autonomous territory of Denmark and geographically a part of the North American continent. Its capital, Nuuk, is closer to New York than to the Danish capital, Copenhagen. On Monday, Trump praised the island on his social media platform Truth Social, promising to make Greenland great again. At the heart of Trump's renewed interest in Greenland is its pivotal role in U.S. missile defense. The Pitufik space base located in Greenland enables America to monitor and intercept threats from Russia, China, and North Korea. This Arctic outpost gives the U.S. unmatched reach to protect its territories and allies while positioning it as a dominant player in the race for Arctic supremacy. Also at stake are Greenland's vast reserves of oil, natural gas, and rare earth minerals that make it an economic and strategic jackpot, explaining Trump's interest in it.
The war rages on between Russia and Ukraine.
In the latest, at least 13 people were killed and 29 others were injured after Russian guided missiles struck Ukraine's Zaporizhia. And this comes ahead of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's meeting with allies in Germany.
Authorities in Zaporizhia said that high-rise apartment buildings, an industry facility and other infrastructure were damaged during the attack. The resulting debris and remnants fell on a tram and a bus. They also added that the death toll could go further up. Emergency workers continued their rescue operations amidst raging flames, smoke and burnt cars. According to Zaporizhia's governor, Russia used 2 guided bombs to strike the region.
In response to this, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the attacks in a post on social media platform X. He also urged allies to exert more pressure on Russia. Furthermore, Zelensky will be attending a defense meeting with Kiev's allies on Thursday. The meeting is said to be hosted by the United States of America in Germany.
Ahead of the defense meeting, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said that American leadership is critical for Ukraine. He also added that the continued assistance from Washington holds the key in stopping Moscow's aggression over Kyiv.
From one war front to another, the Israeli military says its troops have found the body of a hostage held by Hamas in Gaza,
along with evidence suggesting that his son may also have been killed. The body of Israeli Bedouin Yusuf Ziadani was recovered from a tunnel in the Rafah area. The Israeli military said it is investigating the circumstances of his death and the findings regarding his son Hamza.
The IDF said Special Forces soldiers conducted a complex and difficult operation in the Rafah tunnel to retrieve the body, which was found close to the bodies of armed guards from Hamas or another Palestinian militant group. The body was taken to Israel for an identification process, and the family was notified after the identity was confirmed.
Earlier, Defense Minister Israel-Gaza had said that the remains of Ziadani's son Hamza had also been brought to Israel, but the military clarified that the son's body had not been recovered, although findings related to him were located, which raised serious concerns for his life.
The father and son were seized by the Palestinian militants from Kibbutz Holt near the Gaza border during the Hamas attack on October 7, 2023. 2 other children of Ziadani abducted on the same day were released during a week-long ceasefire in November 2023.
Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal is very close, but reiterated that it may not happen before President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration.
Though he said that the deal will be done on the basis of the plan put forth by U.S. President Joe Biden in May last year, Biden had unveiled a 3-phase plan for the release of the hostages and a ceasefire in Gaza.
We're very close to a ceasefire and hostage agreement. We've talked about this too in recent days. I hope that we can get it over the line in the time that we have left. But if we don't, then the plan that President Biden put forward for a ceasefire hostage deal will be handed over to the incoming administration. And I believe that when we get that deal, and we'll get it, it'll be on the basis of the plan that President Biden put before the world.
As mediators, Qatar, Egypt and the United States have been brokering a fresh round of indirect negotiations between Israel and Hamas in Doha. Israeli military pounded Gaza, killing at least 22 people on Wednesday. According to Palestinian medics, at least 10 people were killed in an airstrike on a multi-story house in Gaza's Sheikh Radwan neighborhood, while another strike killed 5 in the nearby Zaytun suburb. A total of 7 people were killed in Deir el-Balah city in central Gaza and also in Jabalia. Well, so far, over 46,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israel's 15-month-long offensive against Hamas in Gaza.
In the West Bank, an Israeli drone strike killed 3 people, including 2 children, while the military said its air force struck a terrorist cell in the area of Tamun. Palestinian news agency Wafa said Israeli strikes persisted following Monday's killing of 3 Israelis in the territory.
Meanwhile, the Israeli army said 3 of its soldiers were killed in fighting in northern Gaza on Wednesday, bringing its losses in the Palestinian territory to 399. The military said a 4th soldier was also wounded in the area where Israeli forces have been conducting a major offensive to prevent Hamas militants from regrouping. And moving on to Venezuela, in the months-long political tug of war between the opposition and Nicolas Maduro, the opposition is now refusing to retreat on its claims to the presidency.
This amid a crackdown by President Nicolas Maduro on his rivals. Venezuela's Colectivos, that's a group of armed volunteers backed by Nicolas Maduro, have warned that they will forcibly end the opposition protests on the eve of Maduro's swearing-in ceremony. Recently, unknown assailants kidnapped the son-in-law of Venezuela's opposition leader, Edmundo Gonzalez.
Well, this came after Edmundo Gonzalez, who claimed victory in July presidential election. He promised to return to Venezuela to be sworn in as the president. Edmundo is in exile since last September and recently met US President Joe Biden in the White House.
The Venezuela government criticized the meeting, and hours later, Maduro's forces arrested 7 individuals, including 2 US citizens whom he accused of being mercenaries attempting to disrupt the country's peace.
As Gonzalez tries to garner support from other Latin American nations, Venezuela's National Assembly has declared 9 former Latin American presidents persona non grata, including former Mexican presidents Felipe Calderón and Vicente Fox, calling them a foreign force that is trying to invade the country.
On the home front, opposition leader Maria Corina Machado is rallying support for Gonzalez, calling for mass demonstrations a day before Maduro's inauguration.
Angelica, I wouldn't miss this day for the world. It is a historic day. It is a day in which all Venezuelans want to be part of. It is a day that we will tell our grandchildren, and our grandchildren will tell their grandchildren, and that history will write. Besides, I received a mandate in the primaries and a commitment to never ever abandon the Venezuelans.
And South Sudan is ready to restart its oil production after months-long civil war between the Sudan Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces.
It has perhaps damaged the country's infrastructure. South Sudan's Ministry of Petroleum and Energy says it will resume the production and export of crude oil to the international market. Now, Sudan's international partners include China's National Petroleum Corporation. Its energy ministry has a target of producing 90,000 barrels daily in the first 6 months.
Currently, South Sudan depends on Sudan's oil infrastructure to support crude through Port Sudan for export to international markets. Last month, the government announced a plan to build a new oil refinery worth $3 billion at a field in the Unity State that is one of the country's key oil-producing regions.
The new refinery aims to meet the fuel consumption needs of South Sudan, and also its construction will be financed through a public-private partnership. Now, the oil production accounts for about 95% of South Sudan's annual fiscal expenditure. News coming in from the Balochistan province of Pakistan. Sources have told WION that nearly 60 militants of the Balochistan Liberation Army have taken over several key civilian installations in the Zehri district.
And now, in a coordinated attack earlier this month, 60 to 70 militants from the BLA arrived in at least 4 vehicles and took over civilian installations in Zehri districts of Khuzdar in Balochistan. According to information received by WION, about 3 checkposts have been established by terrorists. They also looted a bank in the area and vandalized a paramilitary station. In an exchange of gunfire between the paramilitary forces and BLA, 2 militants from the Balochistan Liberation Army were gunned down. And with that, it's time now for a short break, but we're leaving you with the climate stories which are making headlines across the globe. Stay tuned.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Stampede. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the US.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Stampede. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Thanks very much for staying with us. You are watching World DNA with me, Raisha and Haim. Lots lined up on the show, but first a quick check on the headlines.
At least 6 people killed, dozens sustain injuries in Indian state of Andhra Pradesh after a stampede breaks out near the famous Tirupati temple. Incident occurred during the distribution of entry tokens to devotees.
Cold wave conditions continue in northern India, including capital Delhi. Weather agency issues dense fog warning for next 2 days.
"18 attackers and 1 security personnel member killed after gunmen attempts to storm presidential complex in Chad. Government says destabilization attempt put down."
Israeli military says 3 IDF soldiers killed during fighting in northern Gaza, at least 14 killed in Israeli airstrikes, as US Secretary of State Antony Blinken says that a ceasefire remained close.
At least 5 people killed in wildfires raging around Los Angeles, with more deaths feared. Over 1,000 buildings burned.
The 18-year-old Lucas Bergeville scores a controversial late winner to give Spurs 1-0 advantage over Liverpool in the semi-final of the EFL Cup. Anfield will host the second leg on February 6th. In a tragic incident in India, at least 6 people lost their lives and several others sustained injuries after a stampede broke out near the famous Tirupati temple in the state of Andhra Pradesh.
Now, the incident occurred near a ticketing counter during the distribution of tokens for entry and viewing of the deity during a special festival. Devotees had congregated from across the country for a 10-day special ceremony at the Lord Venkateshwara Swami temple in Tirupati town. Around 40 individuals were injured in the stampede and are receiving treatment at a government hospital. Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister N. Chandrababu Naidu will meet the families of the victims later today.
The Chief Minister held a high-level review meeting with the state and district police chiefs as well as the district collector. The executive officer of the Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanams, the body that manages the temple, also attended the meeting. The office of TDT Chairman B.R. Naidu issued a statement saying that the Chief Minister is closely monitoring the incident. The TTD Chairman visited the injured and took stock of their condition as well.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed grief over the incident, adding that the state government was ordering all possible assistance to those affected. Deadly stampedes are relatively common around Indian religious festivals, where large crowds gather in small areas, often with shoddy infrastructure and few safety measures. In July last year, more than 121 people died, most of them women and children, when thousands at a religious gathering in northern India stampeded at a tent in Hathras town in Uttar Pradesh. All right, for more on this, our principal correspondent Siddharth MP is joining us live on the phone line. Siddharth, thank you so much for joining us. What is the latest on this?
Well, what we're given to understand is that this actually unfolded at one particular spot. In fact, there were at least dozens of counters where such tokens were being issued. All of these are free tokens, so therefore the crowds had swelled beyond a point. At this particular counter, this took place, in fact, at a school. So at that particular location, there was a metal gate, a large metal gate that was there outside the place, and that's where people were gathered. But apparently, when some people fell sick and they were unable to stay, in the queue, they decided. In fact, these people waiting for hours in the queue. So certainly, there are naturally challenges that arise by when people wait as long in queues. And also the crowd gets a little unruly and impatient. In fact, there are also apprehensions sometimes among the people that they might not end up getting the tickets that they were waiting there for hours for. So what happened is, once that gate was opened when someone fell ill, many people saw it as an opportune moment to, enter the premises and get hold of their tickets. So this was a spur of the moment thing that took place all of a sudden. Of course, through the day crowds were swelling, and reports indicate and videos also indicate that the crowd was getting unmanageable. But what triggered this entire tragedy was the fact that the gate was opened for some ill people or someone who had fallen ill to just exit from the place. And at that time, everyone else decided to throng. And in the resultant pull and push and the kind of ruckus that took place over there, at least 50 to 60 people were caught in the stampede. So as a result of that, some people were trampled over, and this is what led to, this entire confusion and chaos. And as a result of that, we now have 6 people who tragically lost their lives, and then we have almost 40 others who've been hospitalized in different hospitals. We're also given to understand that, different people are in different medical conditions as far as their stability is concerned.
Right, Siddharth. Like you also mentioned that the incident occurred during the distribution of entry tokens to the devotees. Now, this will take place for the next 4 to 5 days, starting from January 10th, when the common people will have access to the deity in a special ceremony. The question now is that what are the security arrangements or the apparatus that is put in place after this unfortunate incident?
Well, basically, what happened yesterday was far, far away from the temple premises. What happened yesterday is exactly at the temple town. You could say it's downhill. You could also say that it took place just close to the bus stand. So what happened yesterday is unconnected per se to the temple, because the temple is where usually security is more tight. The temple is where usually they have multiple passageways and they have, crowd management measures in place. Even when, thousands or perhaps even close to 1 lakh devotees visit per day, they usually have incident-free crowd management at the temple, which is a hilltop shrine. So there the security measures are totally different. But what happened yesterday was downhill at the temple town, where, there are bus stands and railway stations. It was at that place where yesterday's incident unfolded. As far as the temple is concerned, we can be reasonably confident that, as usual, it would be going pretty well in the next 10 days when the festival is underway, because usually at the temple, crowd management has a pretty good reputation over there. But let's also keep in mind that today's review meeting and Chief Minister's visit will also be quite crucial, because he is expected to visit Tirupati and Tirumala this afternoon, that is between 12 noon and 3. And during that visit, we can expect him to review the arrangements and also coordinate with the local authorities to ensure that things will be set right henceforth.
Right, Siddharth. Thank you for joining us on the show with your insights on this incident.
All right, let's shift our focus for now. Police in Cambodia have arrested a former Thai Marine over the fatal shooting of former Cambodian opposition MP Lim Kimya.
He had fled from Cambodia to Bangkok on a bus along with his family and was shot dead soon as he arrived in the Thai capital. As per reports, gunmen on a motorcycle opened fire on Lim Kimya, a dual Cambodian-French national. Thai police issued a warrant for the suspected shooter on Wednesday, and hours later, the police said that the man was detained in the Battambang province, which borders Thailand.
Cambodian police named the suspect as Ekalak Phenoi, and he said that he would be returned to Thailand without giving a timeline for this.
Lim Kimya was a member of the once hugely popular Cambodia National Rescue Party, CNRP, which was dissolved in Cambodia, and all its political activities were banned by the country's Supreme Court in 2017. In a statement shared on social media, the CNRP described Lim Kimya's killing as an assassination.
Rights groups have accused Cambodia's ruling party of using the legal system to crush opposition. Scores of opposition politicians and activists are forced to flee the country. The Cambodian government has always denied charges of cracking down on political opponents.
Investors are increasingly concerned that China risks sliding into an economic malaise that could last decades.
Take a look at this next report as we decode the alarm raised by markets over the deflationary spiral in China.
Investors in China's $11 trillion bond market are more negative than they have ever been about the world's second largest economy. Some are even betting on a deflationary cycle similar to the one that Japan experienced in the 1990s. Despite China's government announcing several economic stimulus measures, yields on Chinese benchmark sovereign bonds have fallen to record lows. The recent plunge has dragged Chinese yields far below levels reached during the 2008 global financial crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic. This underscores growing concern that policymakers will fail to stop China from sliding into an economic malaise that could last decades. In other words, the Japanification of China, with lost decades being the economic risk. It would have far-reaching consequences if the bond market were correct. The other big risk China faces is its property crisis. Bloomberg Intelligence predicts that home sales by the nation's property developers could decline further in 2025. According to experts at JP Morgan Chase, the largest source of defaults in Asia would be Chinese property developers. The majority of real estate players facing their first bond repayment after a prior debt restructuring are Chinese developers. They are estimated to account for almost 2/3 of the defaults. Goldman Sachs also predicts that the majority of trouble will come from Chinese property sector. S&P Ratings sees the default rate in the Asia-Pacific region ticking up this year by 1.5% on the back of China's recent economic slowdown. Zerlina Zeng, head of East Asia Corporate Research at CreditSights, said, "The property downturn is far from over. We see increased asset revaluation and liquidity risk among Hong Kong property credits." Beijing will increase subsidies for consumer goods and raise financing for improvements to industrial equipment. This is part of a campaign to support domestic consumption. Consumers will qualify for a 15% subsidy for buying new mobile phones, tablets and smartwatches under 6,000 yuan or about $820. The actual benefit is capped at 1,500 yuan per person each year, with some restrictions placed on the number of goods that people can buy. China has made boosting consumption a higher priority this year as it looks to fight deflation amid subdued household and business confidence. However, despite the stimulus blitz and pledges to boost demand, the deflationary spiral lasting several years is a real risk under Trump 2.0. Business Bureau, WION World is One.
Now, JP Morgan is making a bold move requiring all of its employees to return to office full-time.
Ending its hybrid work model as debate over remote versus in-office work continues. Major firms are taking steps that could reshape the future of the workplace. Our next report telling you more.
JP Morgan, the largest US bank, is set to end its hybrid work policy, requiring all employees to return to the office full-time. The change affects over 300,000 global employees and will replace the existing 3-day-a-week mandate that was implemented in 2023. This move aligns with the bank's policy for managing directors who already work 5 days a week in the office. JP Morgan's return to office mandate is a response to CEO Jamie Dimon's belief that in-person collaboration is key to productivity and company culture. The shift to full-time office attendance marks a broader trend in corporate America. While JP Morgan follows Wall Street firms like Goldman Sachs, other companies like Citigroup maintain hybrid models. The return to office trend has intensified as major firms, including Amazon and Walmart, have called workers back post-pandemic. However, Amazon recently delayed this transition, citing lack of space. Several corporations have cited lack of space and unpreparedness to manage work in an office. Research from McKinsey shows that larger companies with more resources are more likely to offer hybrid options, while smaller firms often enforce stricter office mandates. As companies navigate post-pandemic policies, the broader issue of employee flexibility remains contentious. For many workers, the ability to work remotely has become an important part of their compensation package, leading to rising friction between employers and staff. For JP Morgan, offering enticements including yoga and cycling rooms, meditation spaces, outdoor areas, and a state-of-the-art food hall are a start. Business Bureau, WION, World is One.
Let's now take a look at all the news from the world of technology. Researchers from Pennsylvania's Penn State College of Medicine have made an AI-based method that can detect autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid and lupus in the early stages, called genetic progression score. The method, the patient's medical data to predict progression from preclinical to advanced stages. Researchers claim that the AI model is 1,000% more accurate than the current models available in the market. Early detection can majorly improve treatment outcomes, offering hope to patients suffering from life-threatening medical conditions.
British universities are withdrawing from Elon Musk's social media platform X, citing its role in spreading misinformation that fueled last year's riots. A survey revealed several institutions, including London Business School, have reduced their usage of X or are completely quitting the platform due to declining engagement, misinformation, and sometimes violent content. Recently, there were reports that suggested that several British police forces had quit X or cut their usage. The latest move by the British universities puts into focus the broader withdrawal among public institutions.
Meta is testing a new feature in Germany, France, and the US. The tech giant is planning to allow buyers to browse eBay listings directly on Facebook Marketplace and then complete the transactions on eBay. The partnership aims to give eBay sellers access to Facebook's vast audience while expanding Marketplace's offerings for the users. And this comes as Meta appeals an $840 million fine from the European Commission over alleged anti-competitive practices related to Facebook Marketplace. While Meta works to address the Commission's concerns, the move signals a push to enhance user experience and support e-commerce collaboration.
And Tottenham Hotspur will carry a slender lead to Anfield after beating holders Liverpool 1-0 in the first leg of the EFL Cup semi-final.
18-year-old Lucas Bergeville scored a late, controversial winner on a historic night where the referee made an NFL-style in-stadium announcement for the first time. Liverpool had beaten Spurs 6-3 when these teams met in the Premier League in December, but this was a different ballgame altogether. The competition was much tighter, with chances at a premium. The first half was marred by a nasty-looking head injury to Tottenham's Rodrigo Bentancur. The Uruguayan midfielder lay face down on the turf before being carried off on a stretcher. Spurs later confirmed that he was conscious and taken to hospital for treatment.
Former Liverpool striker Dominic Solanke thought that he had given Tottenham the lead in the 76th minute, but his goal was ruled out after VAR check for offside. Referee Stuart Atwell communicated the decision via a wireless microphone on the spectators' side. The Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, this is a first in English football. Liverpool too came close to breaking the deadlock through substitute Trent Alexander-Arnold, but his shot was cleared off the line. Teenager Bergwall scored his first goal for the Spurs in the 86th minute.